couple of games. I'm Killer Chair. Hello, howdy, how you doing? And next up, we're gonna have rzr360 here play Ninja Gaiden Black, any percent normal. Good luck on the run.
Thank you. All right, so time will begin in three, two, one, go. Hello, everyone. I'm rzr360 or rzr360. I'm going to be running Ninja Gaiden Black. Like I said, this is a 3D action platformer created by Team Ninja and Koei Tecmo. If you're unfamiliar with them, you might have been more familiar with some of their recent games, such as Neo. They created this game in 2005 after the initial release of the first 3D Ninja Gaiden game in 2004. The Ninja Gaiden series is well known from the NES era as being very difficult platforming games, and the 3D versions have definitely been true to that kind of history of the series. They are some of the most difficult games anyone would probably ever play. A lot of times they get compared to Dark Souls. I do not like that comparison because they play very differently, but they are very difficult. Now this game was actually created more or less because the lead director for Team Ninja at the time was told that Ninja Gaiden Black, or Ninja Gaiden, the OG version, was too easy. So he decided to make a much harder game. So this is the hardest version, in my opinion, of the entire series, because there was actually another remake game called Ninja Gaiden Sigma, which was just released with a master collection of the series as well. And so we're going to be trying to go through this game as quickly as possible, dealing with a lot of enemies who are going to do everything they can to try to kill us and stop us along the way. There's going to be a lot to this run as far as movement and combat goes, and I'm going to try to explain things as I go. Right now, what I'm going to be doing is picking up a lot of these items, which are going to be useful for the entirety of the run, and some key items for this chapter. So the game is kind of structured on every chapter by chapter basis, and each chapter kind of has a similar theme in that you're trying to collect these key items in order to open the next progression to the chapter, which is going to unlock the final room, which will end up being a boss fight. So we're going to keep kind of rinse repeating that from chapter to chapter. There are a couple like small exceptions, but that's going to be generally the central theme that you're going to see. And along the way, along with these required items, I'm going to be picking up other items which are going to help throughout the run, including healing items or items which will help with my Ninpo, which is an ability we'll get in a little bit later. And so this first part, we're going to be dealing with two fights, which we already dealt with one, and then the second fight, which is these white ninjas, and then the final boss after we finish up this last guy. Or not the final boss, but the final boss of the chapter. So this boss is Mirai. Mirai is kind of like the first hurdle for most new players. He is a very tough boss. I'm actually going to try to focus on him a little bit. Alright, and that's Mirai down. So he's very fast. He can block your attacks and go from a block into another attack or even a grab. So he's a very scary boss to try to deal with a lot of times. And a lot of people, their first playthrough, they got to Mirai and they quit because he's very unforgiving. And in Ninja Gaiden Black, they don't really tell you much. They kind of leave you to figure out everything on your own. In the original Ninja Gaiden game, there was tutorials on how to do certain things, which they completely cut for this game. So there's a few other spots where the game kind of is quote unquote unfair. I don't personally believe the game is ever unfair. It's just more or less you can play around it, but we're going to go through here, and this is where we're going to actually pick up our first Ninpo coming up. So I kind of want to talk about Nimpo real quick. So you'll see it after I pick it up, there'll be like this flaming orb underneath my health bar. That signifies the number of uses of Nimpo that I get. Nimpo is very powerful. It does two things. One, it gives Ryu iframes during the casting, and two, it does a lot of damage to pretty much everything around Ryu. We're going to use it in boss fights, and we're going to use it to clear up a lot of enemies when we get swarmed around. There'll be a few sections where Nimpo is going to play a huge role, and we'll cover those. But in this first part, we pick up the Scroll of Fire Wheels, but I'm not going to equip it just yet. So I had to get some money in the first chapter so I can buy the second Nimpo, which I'm going to do in a little bit, because we're going to use that to start off with. Now, as far as what's happening, we just got to the Hayabusa village. This is Ryu's home. The first chapter we find out that Ryu is a training session, and the second chapter we find out that during the training, while Ryu's away, his village gets attacked. And so now we're trying to get here to kind of help deal with the attack. We find out from Ayane, who just gave us the bow, that Doku, the black-clad samurai, is the one who's attacking or leading the attack on the village, along with all these other samurai. So we're going to try to stop him. But here, I'm going to equip the bow and equip the Nimpo that I bought, which is the Scroll of Inferno. And we're going to have our first required fight, which is with these horsemen guys. What I want to do is try to cast Inferno to knock them both down. And then I'm going to try to move to this guy and set up an attack to kill both of them at the same time. So what that's going to do is it's going to cause the next wave, which is going to be another set of the same horsemen, to come in at the same time. And what I want to do is I want to set up so that I hit them both as soon as they spawn in with the Inferno Nimpo, which just clears them up right away, which makes that fight really fast. If you mess that up, this fight can kind of run away from you very quickly. The horse guys move around much faster than Ryu, and they don't like to get hit. And they like to hit you hard. And so we have another horseman. This is a boss. This is Masakato. The general strat for this is to try to just shoot him with as many arrows as possible and pray that Ryu actually aims at him, which Ryu's doing a pretty decent job. Another thing that can happen, though, is even if you hit him, he can hyper armor. He actually did it once where you heard that ting, where he just negates all the damage. So by and large, though, that was actually a pretty generous Masakato. He didn't give us too much grief. He can be very variable in the run because the hyper armor arrows is completely random. So that was chapter 2. At the end of the chapter, there's a cutscene where Ryu actually confronts Doku, and Doku essentially kills Ryu. And Ryu gets resurrected because he's got some really strong blood, and we find out that Doku actually works for the Holy Vigor Emperor. So we're trying to get to the capital of the Empire so that we can find Doku and find the Dark Dragon Blade, which is what Doku attacked the village for. He stole it from Ryu's clan, and so we're going to try to get it back if we can, and because the Dark Dragon Blade is an evil blade, and it kind of just rules the world. So one of the things I want to talk about here is a couple different techniques that I'm going to be using throughout the run, and they're called ultimate techniques. It's where Ryu does this like charge slash kind of attack. There's two ways to get the charge slash. One of them is to just kind of charge naturally by holding down the strong attack button or Y. The other way is to use what are called essence. Essence are like those floating orbs that you see when an enemy is killed. There's two types. There's yellow, there's red, and then there's blue. Yellow essence is money. That's how I got the currency to buy the Nimpo in the last chapter. Blue essence is health. These guys are. And red essence is Nimpo. So each has their own different properties, like I said. And what's basically happens is if I use one yellow essence to charge my ultimate technique, I get a single charge. If I use a blue or red, I get a full charge, because ultimate techniques have 2 charges to them. So I want to get yellow essence for a lot of these fights as many times as possible, because that's going to guarantee that Ryu does the first charge ultimate technique. Even though it's technically a weaker attack, it does enough damage to clear these enemies, and this full charge has kind of like this really long animation where Ryu does a multi-hit combo. So we want to avoid that as best we can. Another thing that I'm doing is, if you notice, the last fight, I actually left an essence floating after I killed the last enemy. That's so I could do something called essence pulling, which is where I pulled the essence from that last fight into this fight, which lets me just kind of kill the 2 soldiers right away at the start of the fight. We're going to do that a couple times. I've actually already done it once before in the first chapter, and it's the kind of the best way to a lot of times to deal with these enemies when you come in, because otherwise I would have to fight them normally, and instead of just getting that instant kill. So ultimate techniques are really powerful for that reason. The other thing I want to mention is I can guarantee that I get a yellow essence from an enemy if I kill them with an ultimate technique, because when you kill an enemy with an ultimate technique, if you kill them with the first charge, they drop 3 times their normal money value or yellow essence value, and if you kill them with a fully charged ultimate technique, they drop 7 times, and it's a guaranteed drop for almost every enemy. There are a couple certain special enemies, but we don't ever encounter them in this particular run or this particular difficulty. So this fight is really just break the boxes and then do a bunch of ultimate techniques to clear off all these soldiers, and then I'll use another essence after that soldier dies to spawn in and continue like the chain of the ultimate techniques killing those guys. So next we want to kill those 2 soldiers before climbing onto this wire, because they'll shoot Ryu, and if they shoot Ryu while he's on the wire, he'll fall off, and if I fall off anywhere here, it's instant death. So we don't want to do that. We want to avoid instant death if we can. So what's happening here is Ryu's trying to gain access to the rest of the airship. So basically this airship's the only way Ryu can get to Tehran, because it's such a secluded country. And so he stows away on this airship, but the Tehran military find out about it, and they don't like ninjas. They actually really despise ninjas. So what we're going to try to do is deal with the military presence on the ship by opening these unlocked doors. We find out that all of the doors unlock if we kill the power. So that's where we went. We went to go kill the power down there, and now we're going to try to get to the base of operations for the military here, which is actually on the top of the blimp. I'm actually going to heal here. I'm going to equip fire wheels now, because I'm going to use this in the fight coming up, and then I'm going to equip smoke bombs. I picked these up in chapter 2. Smoke bombs are a very powerful item. They're very underutilized for a lot of people's first playthroughs, because it's not a lot of people actually understand how they work, but I'm going to show them off here because they are one of the most powerful projectiles in the game for any difficulty and any player level as well. So in order to get to this final boss, I just have to pop this lever up, unlock the hatch, and then climb this ladder. So we're gonna try to see if we can't take a peek at Ryu's face, but oh, he's like obscuring it. So we come up. All right, so we get to the top, and now this is a Dynamo. He's an interesting boss. He has quite a few attacks, but so what I'm gonna do is I'm going to try to block the first attack and then dodge the follow-up by using smoke bombs. See, because normally smoke bombs give me this little roll animation, and it also creates like this puff of smoke which distracts the enemy, so it gives me a little window to attack. And yeah, so that was Dynamo. Overall, pretty good chapter. And we're just trucking right along. So this chapter is chapter 4. This is actually one of the few outlier chapters. This has no boss fight in it. There is a lot of tight execution with movement regarding this chapter, so we're going to try to get through this city as quickly as possible. And the reason why I feel like the Tehran military doesn't like ninjas is because they really built a city around, like, for making a ninja really move through it really well. So that was kind of like a mistake on their part. And so they're going to keep sending soldiers after us. We're going to try to deal with them by beating them into this wall. And then using an ultimate technique on this guy after we do that. So because we know where the soldiers spawn, we can kind of just preemptively be ready for them. So we're going to do that on a lot of these fights. So we're basically spawn camping them. If you're a Call of Duty fan, then I recommend you avert your eyes because, you know, Call of Duty fans hate spawn campers. So most of this is mostly, like I said, is going to be tight movement. There's a lot of different ways that you can accomplish movement in this game. One of the main ways is going to be the roll jumping, which you see me do a lot. And the other ways is going to be what are called on landing jumps. There's also wall runs and wall clings or bird flips. There's a lot of different ways to move throughout this game. Roll jumping is the fastest form of movement on a flat plane. On landing jumps have a lot of different properties, but they're the fastest we can move if we're going up a horizontal or vertical, or not vertical, diagonal plane, like some stairs or an inclined slope or anything like that. And we also get introduced to another type of enemy, which are these spider ninjas. We try to avoid them as best as possible because they are very annoying. But you can see this is another form of movement. This is kind of has to do with the platforming of the game, where we do these wall runs. That lets us access areas which we can't normally reach by just jumping across because it's too far. We'll also use a lot of other wall movements, such as, like I said, the bird flip, which is where you jumps off of the wall, and there's other ways to move in the air as well with using weapon attacks, which we'll go over when we get to some of those skips later. And so here in this chapter, we're trying to find information about where Doku is. So we get told by Ayane at the start to go to Han's bar, which is where we just went. But we need a ticket to get into the bar. So we have to come to Muramasa at his shop because he's running a special promotion where if you buy something from him, he gives you a ticket. So that's what we came here to do. We get our ticket to the party. So now we can enter Han's bar and get the information that we're seeking. Another item that I picked up in this portion of the run is called the Spirit of the Devils, which I just used. You can see now I have an extra Nimpo slot. That's really important. Like you said, Nimpo is very powerful. We need that that item, and even though we kind of go out of the way to get it, it saves way more time over the course of the run. So in this cutscene, we find out about fiends and the fiend hunter Rachel. That's about all we get to see of her for quite a while, unfortunately. She's a really cool character for the most part, and but not a big part of the run because, well, we skip all the cutscenes. But basically she tells us about fiends, and now we have to deal with fiends as an enemy moving forward. So in this chapter, we start off with a chest that gives us the Lily Key. So, because there's actually a whole section of the city that's been locked off when we got here. Now we have access to it. One of the great things that this game does is it kind of moves you around the entire map and takes you back to places and revisits places, which in my opinion is just is good map design. Makes you kind of gives it like a Metroidvania feel, but not really. But it uses the entirety of the game and the map really well. So what we're gonna have to get across now is the bridge. So in order to do that, there's a lever that's behind another locked door. So we need another key. So we're gonna move around here to get the key because it's in this chest, which just happens to be up this kind of like this higher elevated area, which is a weird place in my opinion to put a key. It doesn't seem very secure. Like, I don't know, they, like I said, they kind of built the city around the ability for a ninja to move around it and get access to things, which is again why I think that they don't really like ninjas a lot, because these ninjas that are following me, they're actually not part of the Tehran military either, by the way. They're a completely separate group. But normally if I can distract all of those ninjas properly with a smoke bomb, I can actually hit this lever before they come up to me. But because I didn't do that, I just despawn them and they go away once I cross this line, because they don't follow Ryu a certain distance because they're scared, I guess. So soon coming up, we're going to be going into the first fight for this chapter, which is just going to be some more soldiers. And we're going to do what we did with the other fight. We're going to spawn camp them and bash them with our lunar stick. So yeah, you can see like just moving straight through there, roll jumping very fast, much faster than just running normally. Yeah, so this first guy we beat into the wall, the second guy we beat into the wall. Then I'm going to equip Inferno and the Dragon Sword and Shurikens. I'm going to use 2 ETs to finish off these guys. And that's going to be the end of that fight. So these fights are pretty standard, to be honest. They kind of go the same every time as long as you execute properly. And the soldier fights aren't really super tight on execution. But this next part, we're gonna have some more soldiers. So I should mention that what I bought in the last chapter was an upgrade to the Dragon Sword. So it's gonna do a lot more damage and give me access to a couple more moves that I didn't have before. Which I'm gonna use in this fight and the boss fight coming up. But so this fight is just hit these guys, or these fiends. These are red dino fiends. I'm actually going to take that. And then blast them with the Inferno Nimpo. That's pretty much the idea of that fight. So now we have Hydrocubus, and Hydrocubus is actually invulnerable on the main part of his body until his side tentacles are taken out. So what I want to do is a move called Flying Swallow, and then I'm going to do a Shuriken Cancel in the air, and then press Y for a Helm Splitter. And then the move that I got is this move that you keep seeing Ryu do while he's in the air, which is where he kind of stays up there and he does a bunch of different slashes. Just like this. That's a really strong move. It does a ton of damage to Hydrocubus, so we could just spam that and take him out pretty quickly. And that's another character. That's Gamov. We see him one more time, I think, during our cutscenes, so I'm not going to really talk too much about him. The next coming up chapter is a really rough chapter. This kind of is the turning point of the run where things become a lot of RNG heavy for a lot of the fights. Because the enemies in this chapter are really annoying, and we have to deal with a lot more of them than we have had to deal with in previous chapters. And the spawn points aren't set, so we can't just spawn camp them either. So we have to kind of either guess where they're going to be, or hope that they're going to be in a good spot for a lot of these. So you'll see me pick up a couple of their items as well. Like I picked up a Elixir of the Devil Way, and I'm going to pick up another one. These are potions that refill our Nimpo. So I've already used one of them in the horse fight. So we're going to actually use a couple of them in this chapter because we are going to use Nimpo quite a few times. So this is the first fight. This is the archive fight. So this fight is the only like standard fight in this chapter, because what we do is we just come up to this guy and then knock him down, and then use the fire wheels to finish him off. And then we wait, try to look for the second one as he comes in, and then we just finish these Shadow Fiends off as they spawn in as well. So this one is pretty straightforward. This one, I want to get the money from these guys as well. We do need money throughout the run. It's very important, because that's how we're going to upgrade our weapons, and so we can use them effectively against bosses and enemies. I am going to pick this up. So I picked up 2 necessary items for the run. One is the incendiary shurikens, and the other is a stone tablet piece. Do not forget that stone tablet piece. If you forget that, you actually cannot progress in the game, because it is required to get to the end part, and the place that you use it is in a completely separate area. So you have to travel quite a distance if you forget that tablet to in order to progress if you get to that spot in the end game. So here the combination is set, so we just enter it in. We're gonna get a book, and then the door is gonna lock because there's gonna be more enemies. So these are monk fiends. They are very annoying, see, because what I want to try to do is hit them with incendiary shurikens to try to finish them off. So 2 incendiary shurikens is normally enough to kill them. However, if they teleport during certain parts of the incendiary shuriken's explosion, they'll just negate the damage. So we really don't want them to teleport. And then Shadow Fiends also are kind of an annoying enemy because they can move around a lot. They're very dodgy as well. And sometimes Ryu decides he wants to target the dead enemies as well. But overall, we were able to clear them up pretty well. So I want to actually kill those enemies and then pick up that statue before the final cutscene of that area plays, because I can move during the cutscene if I've done that. So that's actually just like a really small minor optimization that we do. Next, we place this book here. So we were told before coming here, there's an underground passage that leads to the palace of the Emperor, and that's where we're gonna find the Dark Dragon Blade and Doku as well. So his whole point is Ryu's trying to get revenge, and so he's going around, he's killing all of these soldiers, he's killing all these fiends as much as he possibly can, because for the sake of revenge. And here, what I'm going to be doing is attempting to do what are called our on-landing jumps. Like I said earlier, there's a special property to on-landing jumps. So Ryu has iframes when he jumps and when he lands. So what I'm trying to do is jump as soon as Ryu hits the ground. And what it does is it gives him iframes through these spikes. So you see I just landed on those spikes and completely negated the damage. So we'll use on-landing jumps throughout that portion, and we'll use them throughout another portion as well in order to avoid some enemies. I am going to save here because my health is kind of low, and if I actually jump off here at the wrong angle like that, game over. So it's a good thing I saved. And yeah, sometimes that happens if you don't line up. I was trying to go too quick, but it's totally okay. It's about a few seconds. So here we're going to do just kind of bypass those fiends. We can actually jump down here, which is, we were a little bit higher up before, but the death plane doesn't extend all the way down. So we can just jump down there. I'm going to kill some of these bats because I want their essence in order to charge a UT at the beginning of this fight. And they dodged my attack, which is great. So like I said, Shadow Fiends are really dodgy. So sometimes they just avoid your attacks. I don't actually have to kill any of these guys, but I want to because I want the money from them. So I'm just going to try to kill as many of them with ultimate techniques as I possibly can. And of course, Ryu's not going to target. He's going to target the other guy, not the guy in front of him. So yeah, I left one alive because it doesn't matter. Here I pick up the Vigorian flails. I'm going to equip those. I'm going to also equip Inferno. And we have another set fight here. This is in the ritual room. So there's actually two fights here. The first fight is going to be with these mosquitoes fiends. So I'm just going to cast Inferno as they charge at me. And that's going to deal with a lot of them. And then I'm going to throw a couple incendiaries. Oh, actually, I got a red drop, so I don't have to use a potion yet. So, and that's that fight right there. So I'm going to use the Great Devil Elixir, which fills up more than one Nimpo slot. And then start of this fight, I'm just going to come over to the Archer, kill him real quick. So that way I can get some essence from him. I'm going to charge UT. So the reason we swap to the flails is actually because they do a lot of damage to these zombies. The last couple hits of the flails ultimate technique, or UT, like I said, is enough to kill these zombies. So we want to try to line them up to where we get multiple of them together. Just like that. So that we can kill two at a time and then use the two essence from the ones we killed in order to use another ultimate technique where we just chain it over and over again. So yeah, that fight went pretty well. So then we leave the essence up in that room so that we can pull it into this fight where we have 3 more of these guys. So these guys we actually do have to kill because the elevator is going to get locked along the way. And we missed. That's okay. What we want to do is actually kill all 3 of those at the same time if we can. But Ryu decided to miss, but it happens. So yeah, so now the elevator's unlocked, we can get it moving. I'm gonna charge another UT just normally, so that way I can just kill one of these guys and get money from them. Because like I said, money is very important. We need a lot of money because we want to upgrade the dragon sword again in the next chapter. So we need to have enough for that. These bats can actually really just wreck you. Holy crap. Yeah, so they do a lot of damage. Well, you can't do anything on that ladder. I've had them steal my Talisman of Rebirth, which is a resurrection item that I picked up in chapter 1. Yeah, and they're annoying. So we have more archers. So they can shoot me off here and make me fall all the way back to the bottom. So I have to do the climb again. Luckily, there's a way to kind of manipulate them by pressing and releasing block a few times. So I do that in order to get through them. It's not a guarantee though. They're still very much random where they can just snipe you out of the air, and yeah, it's not a pleasant time. So once we place this here, we get the boss fight because he awakens the bone dragon. We're gonna use the flails again for this fight because it does a lot of damage to this boss. We're gonna do 2 combos, XXY and XYY. So I kind of want to swap between the 2 based off of what the boss is doing. Because one of them has better recovery than the other one. But the XXY has better recovery, but XYY does a bit more damage. And it avoids the some of his attacks. Like when he shoots these bone projectiles out, the XYY can avoid them. So we've taken down 3 of the limbs. We have 1 more limb to take down. Not sure why it ate my X input. That's okay. And there's Bone Dragon down. So yeah, so far so good. Taking the bosses down pretty quick. Like I said, the one death that we got was not a big deal at all. That's why we save. I should mention that if I hadn't saved there, I would have had to start the game over from chapter 1. So yeah, it's a good thing we save, because there's no checkpoints in this game. If you die, you go back to the previous save file. So after the fight, we get a prize, which is the Lives of the Thousand Gods, which I'm going to use here. This is a health bar increase. We do need that because later parts of the game, the enemies are going to do a lot more damage to us, including some of the bosses would just one-shot us if we had base health. There's also a segment of the game where we're actually going to be taking a lot of damage as we move, and I'll go over that when we get there. But you can see now Bone Dragon's been defeated, so he's at the bottom here, and he actually opens up the floor by breaking it into this other area. Ooh. So here I upgrade the Dragon Sword to level 3, which gives us access to more attacks, as well as increasing the damage of the blade. So we're going to use one of these attacks a lot, which is this one right here. This is called Gleaming Blade, where Ryu does this spin attack. It is very powerful. It does a lot of damage with a lot of hits, and it kills just about everything. And we're going to use it on bosses, we're going to use it on enemies, we're going to use it pretty much anywhere that's reliably can get the hits off, because it does so much damage. It is the best move in the game by like a lot. Another note I should give about it as well is, so some enemies will try to grab Ryu. During Gleaming Blade, he's got what we call armor, which is where he can't be grabbed. So we'll also use it to avoid attacks as well. So a lot of the game and a lot of the combat in the game is trying to do damage to enemies while also avoiding damage by using your moves that have iframes. Why wasn't he dead? Okay, that's weird. He took 3 shurikens and an attack and still was alive to stop me from moving forward. Okay, so now we get to try to do bird flip, which we got. We actually did that in the blue room, which is a bit of clever platforming. It's not the intended way to do either of these rooms at all, but it sure looks cool. So we finished the red and blue rooms by pressing these buttons, which unlocks this door. We actually had to jump down this pit because normally if you try to cross the bridge that we saw at the top, the bridge breaks, and so you get sent down here anyways. We just jumped down because it avoids a cutscene, and it's, well, frankly, it's faster. So a lot of the things we do in the run are because they're faster. So next we have a fan favorite boss. It's Hydrocubus again. He's back for round 2, and he's slapping me around a bit, but that's okay. We're just gonna beat the crap out of him. We're gonna use fire wheels, and we're gonna use gleaming blades, and we're gonna hit him as quickly as possible. All right. So sometimes you can actually get a 1 cycle on him, but totally fine. And that's Hydrocubus. You can see, like, this Hydrocubus has the same amount of health as the first Hydrocubus we fought, and you see how much faster this one went because of Gleaming Blade. Like, Gleaming Blade just actually destroys this boss. So we get another Lives of the Thousand Gods, which I'm going to swap back to Inferno. I'm going to use the Lives of the Thousand Gods, and I'm also going to actually use an Elixir of the Devil Way to refill. Because for the next boss, we're going to need 4 Nimpo total.
Do we have time for a donation?
Yeah, so this part's just going to be movement, so.
Alright, cool. We have a €5 donation by Manix86 saying, I had to donate to the only Ninja Gaiden game I've ever completed. Doesn't this game still look awesome to this day? Good luck to RZR for the rest of the run. Also, I don't know what talk to Elderbug means, but that's where I'm dropping my cash. Thank you very much, Manix.
Thank you. Yeah, I mean, this is a lot of people's who ever got anyone who got the original Xbox. This is a lot of people's first like Xbox game or first Ninja Gaiden game, and so it's really cool to hear about people who played it and completed it. It's a really fun game, and if you have an Xbox, like any version of the Xbox, you can still play this game. It is available. I'm playing it on the One X currently. It's available on the new generations as well. Highly recommend you pick it up. But and if you don't have an Xbox, there's actually the Master Collection, which was released, which has the Sigma versions, which are similar enough. Still a really good game, but this one just happens to be the best game ever. So these guys, this is the only place where we're required to fight. And of course, Ryu targets the dead one. Fight spider ninjas. They are a very annoying enemy, so we want to just gleaming blade them. I'm actually gonna pick that up. And gleaming blade just one-shots them. So here I pick up this Great Devil elixir because that's gonna refill my Nimpo twice during this fight. So this is Alma. This is considered to be one of the best bosses in the game. She is a very cool boss. She's really hard. A lot of people. This is another place where a lot of people actually probably rage quit because how hard this boss is. And she's giving me a really good pattern, which is nice. No? Okay. Well, I was really greedy on that one. Lost my talisman there. That's 100% my fault. Went in a little too early. But we took her down. She was actually mostly kind to us there. She took all of our infernos. She can randomly just dodge your attacks. And there's really nothing you can do about it. So she was really nice to us there. And that's kind of why she's considered one of the hardest bosses. She's really frustrating because there's no indication of whether or not she'll actually take your hits. And she'll just either will or she won't. So there we meet Rachel. So Alma is actually Rachel's sister, who was turned into a greater fiend by Doku. And that's kind of Rachel's stake into this fight. So we find out about that, and then after we defeat Alma, Doku appears and kidnaps Rachel, but Ryu doesn't know about that until a little bit later. So yeah, this part I should also mention the Gleaming Blade has same properties as Ultimate Techniques, so you can charge it up, and you can use Essence to charge it up as well. A more powerful Gleaming Blade also gives the same properties of an Ultimate Technique, where enemies will drop more money. So we Inferno the first wave of that fight to drop their Essence, and then we use their Essence to charge a Gleaming Blade, so we can kill the next set and get their money essentially. Which, again, money, very important. We still need more money for the run because we'll pretty much need money throughout the entirety of the run to either upgrade weapons or to buy certain things. And yeah, that's kind of like the theme around this game, is to kill enemies in a way that you're going to get a lot of money from them, so that you can get what you need to continue and progress and not have to die all the time. So here the soldiers are much more powerful than the ones we met earlier. These are the special forces of Tehran. So they realize that Ryu's not just a standard ninja, he's actually a huge threat. So they want to kind of take him down if they can. But we're gonna, use Ryu to the best of our abilities to prevent them. Here we have our helicopter girlfriend. She is very clingy. She doesn't want to leave us alone. So we're trying to shoot her with arrows to give her the hint that we don't want to see her. And so we hit her with 4 arrows. She gets the hint and pieces off. So hopefully she stays away from us. Next, we're going to do some window shopping. So we got quite a few windows to look at here. There's a really... Ooh, that's a really nice one. It's very different from the other ones, right? It's got this blue border. Let's admire it for a second. Oh, hey, look. There's a dude with a bazooka. Wonder what he was doing there. But that's a set spawn and fight. So we kill that guy, and we get a little glimpse from into the window from a perspective that we can't possibly have with Ryu. So I don't often understand that perspective, to be honest. Next, we're gonna try to get up into this area where we saw the soldier, because what that perspective showed us was that there's this really cool bow. I mean, it looks way better than the one we currently have, and it's actually called the strong bow. So you would think, hey, you know, it's probably stronger than our other bow, which you're right, it is. The other cool property about the strong bow is the normal bow has like arrow drop, where the arrows will fall over a certain distance. The strong bow does not have any drop whatsoever. It just shoots straight. So it makes being accurate a lot easier, and it lets us shoot a more powerful variation of arrows, which we'll get in a little bit. So this chapter is the other outlier. This is the only other chapter that does not have a boss fight. You could argue and say, well, you know, the helicopter is a boss fight. It's really not, because you don't have to shoot it with arrows at all. You can just sit and wait, and the helicopter will bug out after shooting at you for a little bit. So we just shoot at it to make it move faster, and then yeah, that's kind of the end of that. So it doesn't really have a boss fight. So now we are at the military base. This is actually one of my favorite chapters in the speedrun. Casually, this chapter is pretty bad, but the speedrun's not too terrible, because it actually has my favorite skip, because it skips one of the most annoying parts in the game. And we also kind of deal with the bosses a little bit differently than a lot of how casual players would deal with them. And it kind of just makes them a little silly. So first we kill those soldiers, we get the key to open the warehouse. I'm going to equip shurikens here because I'm going to use this for platforming. Like I said before, we can use certain attacks for platforming in order to get to places where we normally wouldn't be able to go. So what I'm going to do is get on this train. I'm going to do an attack called Air Destruction Slash, which is where Ryu spins around with the sword to get onto that platform specifically. So normally you're supposed to go into the other side, turn on the power, which lets that platform move back and forth. And that's how you're supposed to get through here. But the way I did it completely circumvents that. And if you turn on the power, it spawns a bunch of drones, which will shoot lasers at you the entire time you're trying to do the platforming, and they'll shoot you and they'll knock you down, and they're really annoying, and I really hate dealing with them. So the fact that we have a skip that just allows us to not have to worry about them at all is huge, in my opinion. So now we kind of have like a little silly portion as well. See, these soldiers, they will not attack me as long as I stand still. So I just stand here and I shoot them with the arrows as they spawn in, and they won't do anything except for like run at me up until they get to too close. So if I miss, then that's on me. So you don't want to miss. But yeah, we just kill them as quickly as possible by shooting them. They take 1 arrow each. So now we have the first boss of this this chapter, because there's 2, which is the tank. Oh. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to hide behind this box. So this box is indestructible. The tank can shoot the box all it wants, but its shells will not penetrate this box. It is the greatest box, and it just so happens that this box is filled with armor-piercing arrows, which are really good for my bow to use against a tank. And it just so happens that none of the enemies in this area actually use a bow, so there's really no reason that these should even be here, other than, you know, a ninja who uses a bow. Sometimes this tank, the second tank, can shoot me from around the box, so I just jump out of the way of the tank shells, because that's how you deal with tank shells. If they're being shot at you, you just jump over them. So we've successfully dealt with the 2 tanks. I think I need this. Oh, I'm actually full. I thought I would need it, but I don't. Because I don't have my talisman, though, I am going to save here as well. The next boss fight is can be kind of scary, especially if it gives me a bad pattern. First, I want to deal with these soldiers. I actually only come up to a certain height on these stairs. If I can hit this guy, he's doing some kind of dance or whatever. But yeah, so I come up to a certain part of the stairs so those soldiers will not shoot at me. And then, hey, our helicopter girlfriend is back. This time we have more powerful arrows, so we're actually going to be able to do some damage to her. Try to tell her we're not interested. Oh, Ryu, where are you aiming? So we're gonna again use this box, but we have to kind of roll into it to avoid a lot of those rockets, and yeah, there we go. Helicopter down, we pick up some more explosive arrows, which I'm going to equip, and I'm actually going to heal as well. So here is the communication relay. This is what the military is using to track Ryu's movements. So we want to take down this this big tower. So we're gonna shoot these satellites, throw explosive arrows, and hopefully, which the soldiers don't throw grenades, which they didn't do. If they throw a grenade, that will completely interrupt Ryu's ability to shoot the bow. So here we do some clever wall running. We're going to do the same thing once we enter this room. We're just going to wall run the entire length because there's more bazooka guys. If you get hit by those bazooka guys, they can just chain shoot you. This is a very easy way for them to kill, either kill you or take your talisman. Because I don't have a talisman, they would just straight up kill me. So I want to try to get out of their way as quickly as possible. So this part's kind of silly as well. So those 3 soldiers that I saw a bit ago, they have a key card, which I need in order to control the train, or open the door that's down there, past the other door that I opened. But Ryu doesn't know he needs a key card until he goes into that room and sees that it's locked. But we don't even have to actually check the door. We can just go into the room, leave, go back, kill those guys, collect the key card that we now know we need, come back down, and then progress like that. So it is kind of a silly thing. I wish they kind of like made it so you could just kill the first 3 and get the key card that way, because we need the key card for this room. But what are you gonna do? So here we activate the train, and it's going to run into it. There's a huge cutscene where we get into a crash with another train. Very tragic, very sad. But Ryu doesn't care. He kills everyone he wants to kill, because it's all that matters. So this part is kind of silly as well. It's a loading screen. It's going to be about like 40 seconds or so. So if there's any more donations or anything you want to talk about, like, this would be a good time.
Currently, no donations, but of course, I can always mention to people that hey, we are raising money for a wonderful charity called Mind, which is a nationwide organization committed to prevent mental health issues and support everyone who is currently dealing with mental health issues themselves or within their family. All of your donations will go directly to Mind, and please, everybody, if you got you got a little bit to spend, a little bit to spare. It's a good charity.
Yeah. Awesome cause. So, after that little loading screen, those enemies pop up out of the sewer, and we enter into the aqueduct. This is one of the more difficult chapters in the speedrun because of how tight the movement is here. There's a lot of places where Ryu can kind of cling to things like that. And so we have to be very mindful during when we're running to keep the movement tight. Otherwise, you can lose a lot of time here very easily. You can also get turned around quite often as well. I often go the wrong way because I forget what I have done and what I need to do, because there's a lot of backtracking in this chapter as well. You go from one area to another area and then back to it so that you can get to the next area, and yeah, it's kind of silly. So this is actually another boss fight where a lot of people would rage quit. This boss is ridiculously, like, it's just a dumb boss, to be honest. It's very annoying. It's the electric worm. In the speedrun, we kind of have like a little like set pattern of how we deal with it. And yeah, so what I'm doing is ultimate techniques into Gleaming Blade as often as I can. And that lets us take it down pretty quickly. But a lot of people who try to fight that boss like casually don't really know about like that technique, right? So that boss can kind of get out of hand. Especially if it starts shooting lightning at you and then going into these slams. And it has a grab attack which comes out really fast, and yeah, it's not a pleasant experience. A lot of people don't like that boss. But after we beat the boss, we get we get two chests. One is filled with money and the other is filled with the red tablet. So the tablets are going to be the key items in this chapter, where we're going to place them into these little like lock things which release the water levels. So the main hall that we entered, called the Hall of Balance, is towards the center. We need the water to flow into the Hall of Balance so that it opens the door behind us, and that's how we're trying to progress through this chapter. So you also notice that I picked up another Spirit of the Devil. I'll be using that a little bit later in a really big menu. The water that we lowered was actually in this room, and it lets us pick up the water statue, or the water spirit statue. That's actually a required item in order to continue to progress in this chapter. So you can see what I mean by, like, you have to go from one area to another, revisit through the central area to get the next progression item so that you can move on to the next area, and so on and so forth, and rinse repeat throughout this chapter. And that's another reason why I say this is like a really well designed game, because it makes you use the entirety of the map, and in more ways than one. And I think it's really cool how the game can do that. And another mention, like the donation mentioned how good this game looks. Yeah, this game came out in 2005 and still looks really good. Like, they didn't, on the port, they didn't update the graphics or nothing. This is how it looks. I think they upscaled the resolution and that's it. But there's no graphical changes to it whatsoever. This is how the game looks, and it's incredible. So yeah, this worm, double worms, similar as the first one. We tried to do the similar pattern. They actually gave me a really generous pattern in the fight as well. They can be annoying where they can both attack you at the same time. Luckily, they didn't actually do that. It was one at a time, which lets me take them down pretty easily. So next, we're going to pick up some more healing and devil elixirs. And try to get through these tunnels. It's actually kind of scary to roll jump through these tunnels because so whenever you have like pillars or anything where you can wall run up instead of like doing the normal wall running like that, Ryu likes to just jump at them. He likes things that are, you know, tall and hard so he can run up them, and it becomes very annoying when he does that. So we don't generally roll jump through there. We try to just walk there a little bit if we can, so we avoid a bit of that. These are very awkward areas, so it's often a lot of times better just to run through them than to try to do the quote-unquote optimal movement, because you often really can't, because Ryu has a bit of a mind of his own. So now we've collected the second tablet, so we're going to go to the area where we need to place it, which is through these tunnels, which we've already been to, and then this room, which we haven't been to yet, which also has a Muramasa shop. So I need 6,000 essence in order to upgrade the Lunar to level 3, because I'm going to use the Lunar in the next boss fight, and I'm also going to buy as many normal healing potions as I possibly can. Which are going to be helpful because we're going to use all of our great spirit elixirs in the next chapter. So next we just move through these tunnels quickly as possible, get to this door, and then this is actually not a required fight at all, but this is a fiend challenge. There's a few of those throughout the game. In normal, there's 60 total enemies to kill to complete the Fiend challenge, and you get a prize for doing so, but it takes forever, so we're not going to do that. Instead, we're just going to hit the button, open the door, and move on from there. So now we're in this huge hall. We got more enemies that are also not required to kill, so we're just going to avoid them. I'm going to shoot the Legend of Zelda eye little thing there with the explosive arrows, which lets us bring down this platform to wall run against. And we're going to do a little bit of clever platforming here. Normally you want to run around the other side and like jump through this branch in order to pick this up. So we call it the branch skip because it skips the branch. I'm going to save here because I don't have a talisman, and this boss can kill me very quickly. So I'm going to use one of these. I'm going to use the Spirit of the Devil. I'm going to use the Jewel of the Demon Seal to upgrade Inazuma. I'm going to equip Fire Wheels. I'm going to equip Incendiary Shurikens, and I'm going to equip the Lunar. And next we place the Brand of Valor down, which triggers the boss fight. So this is Pazuzu. Pazuzu's kind of like a giant skeleton bird chicken thing. That charge attack is actually terrible because it can double hit you like it did me there. So I'm actually going to heal through that because I don't feel like dying. And he grabbed me, which is unfortunate because I had to dodge the lasers. I had to roll a certain way, and he went into the grab right after the lasers, which is a good thing that we saved before we did this. So, totally okay.
Do we have time for a quick donation?
Yeah.
All right, we have €5 donated by Nixus, saying shout out to rzr360, top bloke.
Oh, thanks, Nixus. So yeah, we'll come in and we'll try to do the fight again. Hopefully not get trolled too much. And he's jumping around. We do not want him to jump around at all, because every time he jumps around, I can't hit him. And of course, Ryu gets behind him. We want to try to hit his head as much as possible, because that's where he's going to take the most damage. So I'm going to just try to focus a little bit. Alright, cool. Nope, Pazuzu is now down. So this next chapter is kind of a very change of pace chapter for the game. Around the early 2000s, like late 90s, early 2000s, a lot of action games decided that for some reason collectively we need a water level in our game, right? And we're going to use the water level to completely change the pace of the game and flow and how it should be played, so that, you know, for whatever reason. And like all water levels in these kinds of games, it's terrible and it's boring. We're just going to be swimming around a lot, so there's not really a whole lot to talk about with this chapter, other than like lore and stuff. So I'm going to tell you guys a little bit about what's been going on with the story, since it's been a while since we've caught up. So a lot of the story so far has been, we hear a rumor about where Doku is and we try to follow him, and it ends up the rumor is kind of partially only true, and then it isn't. So right now we hear about how the underground passage that was under the monastery was supposed to lead to where Doku is, like way back when. Find out it's actually supposed to be these aqueducts that we accidentally stumbled upon because we crashed a train. So we get to the aqueducts after killing the giant dinosaur skeleton chicken, and we swim through to where we're trying to go, which is a place called Zarkin, which is actually the palace of the Holy Vigor Emperor. We also find out along the way that a few other things about Ryu and the Dragon Sword and the Dark Dragon Blade as we go, and we still haven't actually realized from Ryu's perspective that Rachel's been kidnapped. We have yet to figure really anything out as far as like Ryu's concerned, other than we need to get the Dark Dragon Blade back from Doku, and Ryu wants his revenge. So this part, you'll notice the big thing about this chapter is that the left-hand side of the screen is like has this bar that's going down. That's Ryu's oxygen, or his air, his breath. There's normally an item here that you can pick up called the O2 tank, which has an unlimited amount of oxygen. And lets Ryu breathe underwater with impunity. We're not going to pick that up because it takes like a minute and a half to do. We're just going to completely bypass it and move on. But what that's going to do is when we lose air, we're going to take a lot of damage. And you can see Ryu's health bar is like dropping fast. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to equip Inazuma for a part coming up. And then I'm just going to heal. So note to self, if you're ever drowning underwater, do not do what Ryu does. Do not pop open a bottle and take a drink. I don't recommend that. If you're drowning, probably get some air. It's probably better for you, but somehow it works for Ryu. Don't ask me why. Might be a ninja thing. So if you're a ninja, I guess, you know, do whatever you want. So the reason that I equipped Inazuma was to blast these fiends, because I don't want them to hit me while I'm trying to place these medallions in, and they also often drop a lot of blue essence, which I want to heal up some more. So the next part we're coming to is actually going to be a very long swim. We call it the deep dive, and it's we're going to be out of oxygen for pretty much most of the swim, which is why we're going to use all of our great spirit elixirs in this chapter, because we're going to use them every time Ryu gets low to get to full health, so that we can just keep swimming. And the lasers hitting me here is really annoying. It's completely random where they shoot. So I'm actually probably going to heal a little bit before even my O2 goes down. But so the deep dive starts once I enter that tunnel coming up. So I'm going to take a breath of air here, and then we're starting. So this part does require a bit of focus, because I have to be able to maintain my pathing so that I don't get caught up on any corners or anything and get Ryu stuck, and paying attention to my health bar as well, so that I don't accidentally just straight up die. I should note that dying to drowning is similar to Ryu jumping off of some spots where it's just an instant death. There's no Talisman of Rebirth saves for this. So I'm going to heal a little bit here, because my health is going to start dropping soon. And that's just so that I can maintain my pathing the way that I do it every time. So yeah, this part is spam A and try to keep as tight a line as you possibly can as you go through these areas. That was really close. I cut it really close there. Probably unnecessarily, but that's okay. We should be safe now. Get out of the water. Heal one more time. Re-equip fire wheels. And then I'm going to save. And here we go for the next boss. So this boss is actually the guy we've been trying to chase the entire time. This is Doku. And he's one of the most fun bosses in the game, in my opinion. He's a really fun boss to fight, especially now. We have a newer strategy that we use against him. We used to use Gleaming Blade on the Dragon Sword, but he would often like take your talismans if you did that, because he can do a lot of attacks and do a lot of damage really quickly. But a runner named Digital T found this strat with the Lunar where we could just forward Y and jump over most all of his attacks, and then just keep chaining it because he keeps dodging his attacks. So he's been kind of quote-unquote trivialized. He's still a really fun boss, in my opinion. Really cool design. And he's got one of the best music tracks in the game with the drums. And it's a great boss. So next we're going to equip Dragon Sword and Shuriken, because we're going to do some platforming. This is the other big movement chapter in the run. There's a lot of really cool movement pieces here, and a lot of really cool tech that we do to kind of like just optimize how we get from one place to another. Like this was a big skip. There's actually normally supposed to be a puzzle with a bunch of levers and moving platforms, but by doing a couple wall runs and doing Shuriken into Helm Splitter or Y, we can actually just get to the top right away without having to do any of the puzzle. Another really cool thing about this chapter is there's a lot of great spirit elixirs. So we used all of them in the last chapter, so now we get to refill them. And so we equip Lunar so that we can break that wall. Go back to Dragon Sword because it's going to be better for the platforming. Sliding is slow, so we jump whenever we're sliding to go faster. Oh my goodness. There we go. So here we're going to go through the tunnels, and there's a couple of these like ice walls we have to break, which we can just break them with the dragon sword. And what we're trying to get is these like medallions, which act as keys for certain doors. So right now we're in the ice caverns. So this medallion is going to open the door to the next set of caverns, which are going to be coming up in just a second. And there's a unique property to the other caverns. They're called the magma caverns because they have, well, magma and lava in them. Ryu happens to just love lava. He loves to jump into it and take baths into it, and he's a glutton for punishment, really. So hopefully we have enough control over Ryu to keep him from doing that, so we don't have to stop and heal all the time. So like that, he could have made it to the platform without jumping into the lava, but he just had to get his feet wet with molten rock. So here, that's actually a skip. Normally you're supposed to do like a wall sidle to get through those vents and just kind of like time going through them. But by using air destruction slash or aerial X into helm splitter, we can actually just get across, no problem. So here's another skip. This skip is a bit tight. So essentially, there's like a seesaw platform, which is how you're supposed to get up to the other side. But we can just do a wall run into a shuriken Y and get up to this pot where we picked up a bunch of iron ore. We're going to fill the pot with iron ore, and that's going to make the next medallion, which is the next key. Oh. So here I am going to actually heal up a bit because my health is low and I don't want to die to the next bit of damage. So that was also another skip where I did that wall run. Normally you're supposed to make a platform pop up in the lava and go around. Yeah, we don't do that. So here we pick up the cog, which is what we made with the iron ore. Ooh. And then we're gonna heal up a little bit more because we're actually about to enter a boss fight. I'm gonna equip the lunar. This is for Jotunfrau. This is kind of a interesting boss. She can AFK there for a little while. I've gotten her down to like 25% health with her before she does anything. But yeah, we're just gonna forward Y. We're gonna use forward Y to dodge her attacks and deal damage to her at the same time. That was actually a really good Jotunfrau. She can be really annoying because she does have an attack where she does these slam downs and summons a bunch of ice pillars, which gives her invulnerability while she's doing that. And so having her not do that attack once and also just like not really do a whole lot was really cool. There's a little skip there too, which I could have gotten, but it's a really tight movement, so it saves like a second or two, so it's not even required or anything like that. So next we do that skip again. We're gonna come onto this side. Ooh. I am going to heal here because there's a spare potion in here, so I want to heal before I come in here, since I want to go to full anyway. And then these corridors pretty easy to get through. We'll pick up another great devil elixir. That's our third one, so we're actually maxed out on those currently. And then we have another worm. This is a fire worm though, a little bit different than the lightning worms. So the lightning worms can shoot out like these balls of lightning. This one shoots out a ring of fire like that. Just as annoying as the other ones, but the one positive to this one is that it doesn't have as much health. So, actually dies pretty quick. And then killing it with the UT gets me a lot of money as well. Oh, jumped a little late. It's okay. Or early, I mean. If you jump at the right time, you can actually and have Ryu just like land on at the door during the cutscene. So now we're coming to the final boss of this area. This is Smaugin. Smaugin hangs out in a pool of lava, and he's a fire-breathing gold-scaled dragon. We're gonna beat him with a stick and the fire wheel Nimpo. So we're gonna see how that goes for us. Okay, he decided he wants to go up, which isn't very nice of him to do. He can do like a bunch of different attacks. Him going up and shooting fireballs at us is the actual worst that he can do. So, but it's okay. We still take him out pretty quickly. So here we get another Lives of the Thousand Gods. This is the last one that we pick up in the run. So we're going to go ahead and use it, as well as equip Inazuma, because we're going to use that heavily in the next chapter as well. And yeah, that's chapter 12. 8:28 in-game time for this chapter isn't too bad, actually. That was a pretty decent chapter. So now we have chapter 13. This chapter, we're going to go through a lot of areas that we've actually been before. This is one of the big backtracking chapters, and it ends with arguably one of the best boss fights in the game. It's definitely a favorite of a lot of people's. It's definitely one of the hardest boss fights in the game. On higher difficulties, it's definitely the hardest boss fight in the game. And normal, I think it's really close between this fight and another fight. Casually anyways. And it's there's a lot to talk about with it, because it's a really epic fight. There's awesome music, there's awesome themes going on. The boss itself is really, really tough and very execution heavy, and also requires a bit of RNG as well. And it's going to be hopefully a one-sided fight. That's what we want to see, but it'll definitely be like a kind of like a dance if it isn't like that, where I'm going to try to do things in a certain way and hopefully the boss reacts properly to it. Oh. But until we get there, it's going to be all movement. So yeah, if there's any more donations or anything, other announcements you want to make, this would be a good time as well.
Alright, sure. In that case, I'm gonna go mention that Delfino Customs is a controller and console business located in England. They specialize in customization, modification, and repairs. Quote the code BSG5 on any orders up to until the 25th of June to get £5 off your offer. If you customize a controller cable with their paracord service, £5 will be donated to Mind. Message them directly for all inquiries via their Twitter page, at Delfino Customs. So yes, going over that also supports the wonderful charity that we support.
Alright, so here I'm going to kill these purple zombies. This is not required at all. The reason I'm going to do that is because killing them drops a talisman of rebirth, which I want the backup, because fighting the next boss without the talisman is really scary already. And also these guys happen to be worth a lot of money as well, so I'll try to pick that out. So this is the third and final tablet piece. We actually picked up the second one last chapter. So, and it just so happens that all of the pieces go here. So if you remember, when I picked up the first piece in the run was back at the Duoku Monastery. If I didn't pick that up, I'd have to go all the way back there in order to progress. So here we end up back at the Hayabusa village, which is another like way the game just uses every area. Which is really cool to me to see that. So there, I'm going to break open that statue to get another jewel of the demon seal. I used the first one on Inazuma. I'm going to use this one on Inazuma as well, but not till the second to last chapter, which is where I'll need it. Here we actually get an item from this gravestone, which Ryu puts into the hilt of the dragon sword. So it becomes the true dragon sword. You see now Ryu has it equipped, and the sword kind of has like this glow to it. The true dragon sword is the highest level version of this weapon, and it is one of, if not the most powerful weapon in the game. It does a lot of damage. It has a same moveset, especially like Gleaming Blade, which just does even more damage now. It's a very powerful weapon, and we're going to use it on this fight, which this is Awakened Alma. So this, again, Alma is Rachel's sister. So what Doku did is he kidnapped Rachel in order to use the connection between their blood to power up Alma into this state. So now, Alma, instead of being able to just dodge our attacks, she can hyper armor them. And it's totally random when she can do that. So we're going to try to knock her down when we can and not get grabbed by her like we did just there. But it's totally okay. I have a lot of healing. And then when we knock her down, we're going to try to Gleaming Blade. We're going to follow it up with another Gleam, or a shorter version of it. And hey, there she goes. So that was a mostly one-sided fight. So at the end of the fight is actually a very touching moment. Doku is about to kill Rachel in order to give Alma even more of her blood and power. And Ryu and Alma have like this race up to the top of the pyramid to you know, Ryu wants to save Rachel and Alma wants to help Doku, protect Doku from Ryu. But what ends up happening actually is Alma beats Ryu to the top and protects Rachel instead, and Doku kills Alma. So Alma gave her life for her sister, which is a very touching moment in the game. Oh, come on. So here we have a Pillbugs fight. There are 30 of these guys. So I'm just going to try to spam Nimpo as best I can. And if I don't have the Nimpo, then I'll use the Lunar Ultimate Technique to kill them off. I do want to use the Lunar Ultimate Technique a little bit because I still need more money. I still don't have enough money. But after that, I should have plenty. Or after this, I mean. I should have plenty. So here we have to do it one more time. So there's 30 more of these bugs. Oh, come on. They can do a lot of damage. Oh. And there we go. That's all the pill bugs. And now we've put these tablets in. It unlocks all these doors, including the back door, and this pyramid kind of raises up from the ground. This is the final area, or leads to the final area of the game. There's no more new areas after these next couple sections. And it's all tied together back to the to Tehran, in fact. So the game really is like, once you get to an area, the only area you really can't revisit is the airship. So if you've missed anything along the way, then you can still go back and get it, which is, again, really awesome to see. But the this part of the area is the labyrinth. So that was this whole area is called Zarkon. That pyramid gets us to the back end of the Holy Vigor Emperor's palace, which, like I said from the start, was the eventual goal. So we want to beat Doku, and we also want to get the Dark Dragon Blade. We've actually already done one, but Doku came back as a ghost, so we need to beat him again. And we still have to get the Dark Dragon Blade after that, which is in the hands of the Holy Vigor Emperor. So that's why we need to get to the palace. So here, this is a spot where we're just going to spam Inazuma. Whoa. Thank you. And then use a UT at the end to kill the last two. One of them went down into the shadows, which is a very lame spot for it to go because it makes it dodge my attacks, but that's totally fine. Oh, that's not what I want. So here I'm going to buy some arrows, a PFSD, then I'm going to stock up on healing potions. And we will keep on moving. So here I'm going to equip the True Dragon Sword. And we will keep this weapon equipped until there's one more boss fight where we'll use the Lunar. But this will be pretty much predominantly the rest of the game. Like I said, the True Dragon Sword is very powerful. So these are some of the most infamous enemies in the game. These are ghostfish. We're going to use on-landing jumps to get through them for the iframes. And so we have to kind of execute really tightly because if I miss an on-landing jump, or if I fail to do it properly and the fish grab me, they can chain grab me, do a lot of damage, or even kill me. And I can do very little about it. You can try to mash out of the grab, but if they decide to come at you at different times, then sometimes there's really just nothing you can do. So jumping through there with on-landing jumps to get through them is the important part. So we get to the second part of the labyrinth after the first key. We find out where Doku goes, but we need another key to get there. So we're going to try to find it. But in order to get to that key, we also have to get through a couple more ghost sections. So some more on-landing jumps. Then this tight area corner is really hard because sometimes you can't see where Ryu is and where he's landed. So you kind of have to feel it out and get it right. Oh. Wait, where am I? I got knocked into the other hallway. That rarely ever happens. Okay. So, and what's interesting is you can do on landings off of a wall run. So going back up, I do it there just because trying to go around the curve the other way is a lot harder. So now we have the Spirit Doku fight. This fight, we're going to just wait for him and then do Gleaming Blade in response to his attacks. I'm actually going to back off him a little bit, wait for him to charge at me, and do Gleaming Blade. If you do this fight right, then he only takes 4 Gleaming Blades to get taken down. So the next one should kill him, hopefully. There we go. And that's Spirit Doku.
Do we have time for a donation?
Yeah.
Awesome, because we have a 50 € donation by Allo Dude. Simply saying, this game looks terribly hard. Good luck on the run.
Thank you.
Thank you for the massive donation.
Yeah, so this part is, we're getting towards the end of the game. There's going to be a big gauntlet where we have to fight waves of enemies, and then finally 2 boss fights, or technically 3 boss fights, and a couple mini bosses. So it's a longer section of the game, but this one is much more combat focused than movement focused, like a lot of the other longer sections. And this is where we're gonna spam our Nimpo the most, because dealing with the enemies and fighting them with the sword can be very troublesome. They can give a lot of variables, so we kind of just want to deal with them the most consistent way possible. So we've been saving all of our Nimpo items up for this chapter, essentially. So hopefully I also get some Nimpo drops, which are the red orbs, so that I don't have to use too many. I should have enough even if I don't, especially since I'm going to be upgrading my Inazuma to level 3. Which, because normally level 2 Inazuma would I would need 2 shots to kill these enemies particularly, but level 3 one-shots them. Oh wow, I got 2 red drops. That's actually super lucky. I got another one. Amazing. Sometimes they can live with just like 1 health or whatever, but you just hit them once and they'll die. So we also, as we went through the run, we picked up these statues. If you don't pick up the statues, then it's similar to the tablet piece. You have to go back. And very annoying. So you can see this is the ghost fish grabbing me. They were gonna try to chain me, but I broke out of it. So here we have dinos and pillbugs. So we want to wait just a second for the dinos to spawn, because they will always spawn on the opposite side of Ryu. So you just wait for a second. There's a red back there. I definitely want to go grab that though. Oh, there's one more enemy. There we go. Yeah, a lot of people consider ghostfish to be the worst enemy in the game. They're not far off. They're definitely one of the worst. Oh my gosh. See, they wanted to take my talisman there. So I'm gonna heal just in case. They can, like I said, they can chain grab you, and there's very little you can do once they get on a roll like that. Oh, shoot. Okay, so there's these big crab guys. He was trying to pull me underneath the level below. If he gets me in that grab, then I'll go down through the floor to the level below and have to go up the stairs again. I won't have to refight the enemies, luckily, but it still loses a lot of time. So just rolling out of the way of that is really important. Here we got more of these guys. Oh. I can't see them. There we go. So I was lucky that that the first two kind of went up to Ryu as he was casting Inazuma. So they died to the initial blast. So the actual casting hit the other two as they spawned in. That's like very rare, very lucky. Okay, yeah. See, they're trying their best to take my my talisman. Oh, and I should have done this too. So here, these are also set spawns. We just Inazuma them. Next we have the mini boss fights, which is Hydrocubus is the first one, everyone's favorite. Oh. So same as the second one, where you take down the tentacles and then we Gleaming Blade him. I actually want the red, so I'm not going to absorb that one for the ET. All right. So that's the third Hydrocubus fight we had to do this run. Next is just more Shadow Fiends, but Marbus is going to start shooting fireballs at us. But we're just going to use the Inazuma iframes. We're not even going to have to think about it. And there we go, finished up that last one. So next, this is the last time we're going to equip the Lunar. This is for a refight with Jotunfrau. This Jotunfrau has a bit more health and does a lot more damage than the other Jotunfrau. This boss can kill me very quickly. Like, this grab would take all but like a sliver of my health. And this is the Ice Slam attack. That gives Jotunfrau invulnerability. We do not like when she does that. But we're essentially, the strategy to fighting her is essentially the same as the first one. It's forward YY with the Lunar and punish her whenever she goes to attack us. And there we go. Jotunfrau down. Yeah, she's really slow, which is like the balance for her. But like I said, if she hits you, she does a lot of damage. So now we want Marbus, which is this guy, to throw fireballs at us and to do a kind of like a corkscrew spiral attack. He can do other things like this, which is where he summons these the Shadow Fiends, or he does like these slam attacks. We don't want him to do that. This does nothing but lose time. Come on, Marbus. Of course. Okay, there we go. So as soon as he does that, we cast Inazuma, and then we do this particular combo. I'm gonna actually focus on this part. Okay, so that's actually an infinite combo. It kills him by just unlocking him, and then we finish him off with a Gleaming Blade. You can easily mess that up, because if you fail to do the combo properly on him, he'll just come out of it and he'll go to grab you, and yeah, it's not a good time. So here I'm going to pick up the Great Devil Elixir. I'm going to place the Demon statue, which opens this door to the top. And then I'm going to save, because I don't want to die. And if I do die, I don't want to watch that cutscene again. So I put the statue in first. So here I'm going to use this, use that, equip fire wheels, and equip explosive arrows. Because we have technically 2 more boss fights for this chapter. Okay, so this is the Holy Vigor Emperor. It's got a lot of annoying attacks like these lasers. What I'm trying to do is hit the little orbs on the chest and the arms. But when it spawns the orbs, there's actually like a invisible wall that gets put up over the chest. So when he's spamming that, it's really hard to hit. Okay, there we go. Next, this is the Skull Emperor. So after we beat the Holy Vigor Emperor in that form, falls into the lava and becomes this form. So we're going to use explosive arrows, fire wheels, and then Gleaming Blade to do a lot of damage. And then once we run out of that, we're going to swap to a PFSD. So here, I'm actually going to do something really special that you all get to see. If you have headphones, I'm sorry. Yeah, that does quite a bit of damage to him. And honestly, is one of my favorite parts about this boss. I just think that's cool. Is it fast? I mean, debatable. But it's cool.
Who needs fast when you got swag strats?
Exactly. So that used to actually be the old strat where you would jump into the lava and spam Inazuma on on him, but we found out that that's actually not only more dangerous, way slower. So we do fire wheels instead. But if he jumps out close to you like that, you can still do one Inazuma and yeah, be the cool kid. So this part is the final chapter of the game. It's a lot of tight platforming. It's really easy to fall here, and if you fall, you lose either a minute or you just die. And yeah, it's very annoying. So we want to try to be very precise with how we move, so that Ryu is able to make each of these jumps and doesn't fall into the lava. And we made it. Okay, so I'm actually going to equip fire wheels as well as incendiary shurikens for the final boss. So I'm gonna actually have to focus on this fight quite a bit. The final time will be when the final boss's health hits 0. I'll try to say time, but this boss actually requires a lot of focus. It's already beating the crap out of me, so can you? Good time. Whew. All right. That was Fiend Mirai. Definitely, he's on this difficulties. He's a very hard boss. But we were able to take him down. I do kind of want to actually watch this cutscene because I think this cutscene's really cool.
Well done on the run.
Yeah. Oh, nice. 151. That's yeah. It's actually a pretty decent run. Even with the 2 deaths, yeah, that's a really good run. Give me 1 second. Go over the cutscene. My favorite part. So after this whole ordeal, hunting these fiends, meeting up with Rachel, teaming up with her, fighting alongside her, in the end, you know, Rachel reaches out to Ryu lovingly, and he's just like, bye, turns into a bird and flies off. And
As you
do. As you do. And I'm like,
Yeah.
you could turn into a bird the entire game. You know how much easier that would have made the platforming? Gosh dang it, Ryu. But so another thing we want to check is the in-game time. 1:39:48. That's a pretty decent in-game time. But yeah, so that's Ninja Gaiden Black. Thanks for having me on the marathon. It was really fun. I love this game. Love the community that we have. If you're ever interested in running this game or learning the speedrun, definitely check out the Ninja Gaiden Speedrun Discord. A lot of awesome people, a lot of really helpful people. Like I said, during the run, if you have an Xbox, you can play this game. If you don't have an Xbox, we still have the Master Collection where you can get a version of this game called Ninja Gaiden Sigma, and there's a lot of work that's going on into that run as it's changed. And yeah, there's a lot of different people who are working on it, a lot of people to shout out. But yeah, I just again want to thank BSG and for having me and for allowing me to showcase this run. It's a great run. It's a fantastic game, and yeah, it's a good time.
All right, cool, and thank you so much for running the game here. Sure everybody had a wonderful time. And next up, everybody, we're gonna get the wonderful Tiny Tim 78 playing Manic Miner. So stay tuned for all that.